Hello, Bryan Colter here, Evolutionary Astrologer, for another horoscope report for the Gemini full moon that happens on December 18th or 19th, depending on what time zone you're in. But really the energy of, as I describe it, will unfold over the next couple of weeks. Before we get to that though, just want to give you a quick reminder that over the next week until Christmas, I have my holiday sale going on, 25% off of all my products. That includes my glasses and my readings. So if you're interested, I'll put a link below. Now to enter into this, I don't want to quite introduce the Gemini full moon because we have two other major events happening over the next week. And that is the Venus-Pluto conjunction in the sky, as well as the nodes of the moon changing signs. So starting off with Venus-Pluto conjunction, this is happening towards the end of Capricorn, about 25 degrees or so, where they're forming a very tight conjunction in the sky. And not only that, but Venus is, during the full moon, is stationing, which means from our perspective on Earth, it looks like it stands still in the sky. And a planet always stations before it goes retrograde or direct. And in this case, it's stationing retrograde. So the retrogradation is significant, of course. But the fact that it's stationing is super important because a planet is at its strongest. The archetypal field is strongest when it's stationing. So the fact that it's happening on the full moon is pretty cool. And then, of course, it's retrograding. And I don't make a huge deal out of retrograded planets. But I will say that whatever the evolutionary intention for that planet is in the archetypal field, when that planet is retrograde, it's like it's more introverted. It's more inward. We can benefit from working with that planet more from the place of reflection, not as much as action. Doesn't mean there won't be any action. It just means we weight that more towards reflection. Much like an introverted person, the way their mind works and their brain works is they're much more likely to reflect, act, and then reflect again, whereas the extroverted person would be vice versa. So ditto with the planets here. So more about reflection. Reflection upon what? Well, Venus-Pluto, so in Capricorn. Pluto, talked about him many times, the Lord of the underworld, the God of hell, is currently holding hands in the sky with sweet Madam Venus, the goddess of love. It's like, ooh, these planets are not natural bedfellows. They don't like each other too much, or they make each other uncomfortable, let's say, or can. So this, the traditional interpretation of this is drama in your close relationships, especially long-term partnerships and people we'd consider family, because these planets are in the sign of Capricorn, the sign of commitment and vows and long-term and integrity. So, okay, fine. Yes, drama does unfold during these events, especially if one or both of the people in the relationship have strong planets in their own personal charts that are in the later degrees of the cardinal signs, like Capricorn, Cancer, Libra, Aries. And then their charts will very much be stimulating this complex with Pluto-Venus, and they're more likely to get triggered. And that's what happens. Our triggers come out. Pluto is about our dark sides, the Lord of the underworld, the hells within us, where we bury all our repressed and suppressed emotions, okay? So when a Pluto contact happens, people in general just get more triggered, again, especially if they are connecting with these planets in their chart. So that's a symptom of this event, and what can happen. But from evolutionary astrology, we're wanting to go dig deeper and say, why? Why is it happening? What's going on here, and how do we work with it actively for, the betterment of ourselves, but also the relationship, since we are talking about relationships here. And, Pluto is connected to our dark sides, and even the best of us have dark sides. And, we have more dreadful parts of ourselves that we politely edit in our normal interaction with the world. And we have parts of our character that we'd rather not have advertised and people to know. Okay, we all have shadow sides, what Carl Jung called the shadow. But if you want evidence that the shadow exists, just watch somebody driving behind the wheel of a car when they're alone sometimes. It's like, so you can see some pretty nasty behavior on the road. Or how couples treat each other after they've been together a year or two, and if there's intimacy involved, the shadow comes out to play, especially when there's sexual energy involved. It really brings it up to the surface. And with every contact with the shadow, other people's shadow, especially when we're younger and more vulnerable, we've learned to recoil and defend ourselves against them. And with every contact with the shadow, our trust has eroded. So when Venus and Pluto hold hands, the wonderful evolutionary intention of this event or possibility, if we're actively engaged with it, is to explore those more wounded, untrusting place inside of ourselves. And the beautiful consequence of doing that deep inner work is that we're potentially able to love more deeply then, explore our relationships with more emotional nakedness and honesty. But first we must heal. Ultimately, this is about regeneration. Pluto, the planet of regeneration, of transformation. Transform our inner woundedness. So we must heal those parts inside of ourselves that have been quietly bleeding for years. It's not easy work to do that. And yes, there's going to be more triggering going on for a lot of us, but allow those triggers to remind us what we still have to work on, and allow your partner to function as a sounding board for those places. So the wound rises up, and of course, the mind, the mental plane is going to play a huge role in this, especially because this is a Gemini full moon. Gemini is an air sign. It's on the mental plane. But if we feed those negative emotions or negative thoughts, it only grows instead of stopping for a moment and with Geminian curiosity, look at those wounds and explore them. What's underneath this anger or this trigger that I have? It's an awful empty pain usually, and it's a time to work with that. So the mind is a big part of this. It's also about the heart, of course. Our triggers are connected to the heart. Also the full moon. When full moons happen, people tend to be more reactive, emotionally reactive, because the moon represents heart, represents our subjective reality. So when the full moon happens, kids are more rambunctious in schools, crime goes up statistically. Any cop will tell you that, So full moons brings it out of us, the emotions of it. But here, the full moon's in Gemini, asking us to have a more cognitive awareness of our emotional world. Because Gemini is the planet of communication. We'll get to that in a second. But underlying communication is thought. So having thoughts, focused thoughts on our emotional world. Now, communication, sure, that's part of it. And the reason why I don't want to emphasize, working on our wounds through communication, of course, there will be a lot of emotionally charged conversations during these set of events. And that's part of it, of course, but it circles back to those thoughts and trying to find compatibility with two ultimately foreign symbol systems for human experience. The human mind, the language of human languages, and that of the language of the human heart. So this is no better time to keep a journal, for example, to put thoughts, to put mental effort. Even the act of writing is a very Geminian process. Or do the equivalent, write very heartfelt letters, which many people don't do anymore. It's kind of an outdated thing, but it's still a great thing to do. Or the equivalent again, to write emails, heartfelt emails to people. I love the idea of giving a Christmas present with a very heartfelt note to the person, And, sure, conversations are good, but the thing about writing is why I'm focusing on this so much is it allows the spaciousness of time and also the luxury to cross things out or to delete them if they don't exactly convey what it is you're feeling with just the right words. So this is the connection between the Geminian mental plane or brain with that of these triggers that you're potentially experiencing during the Venus-Pluto event. Now, Pluto is also the planet of deconstruction. So I like the idea of also trying to deconstruct some of these mental formations or repetitive thought sequences. Most people's thoughts on a daily basis are 80% subconscious, meaning habitual. So Pluto, working with Pluto. Yes, it's connected to the triggers in relationships and all that, our own inner shadow, but our direct relationship between what we think. What we think is a major shaper in our reality, and that includes our emotion. We can't have an emotion without a little thought, and we can't have a thought without a little emotion. So they're deeply connected with each other. So the deconstruction, Pluto, of these mental formations that are only adding fuel to the fire for what these triggers are, and then actively work to create new thought formations. That's why I'm calling this video Mind Training. Now, the other big event that we're experiencing now is the nodes of the moon are about to change signs. They've been in Sagittarius and Gemini for the last 18 months or so. And now, in just a couple days, right around the winter solstice, I think on the 22nd, they're going to be shifting into Taurus and Scorpio for the next 18 months, all the way until about July of 2023. This is a major transition. And if we have time, we'll explore the Taurus-Scorpio transition, but I feel like it's important to revisit the Sagittarian-Gemini complex for two reasons. One, to wring out as much potential as we can on the home stretch of this event, but also because in the sky today, we have Mars just entered Sagittarius. Therefore, it's in a conjunction with that south node in Sag, and therefore activating the north node in Gemini. Also, the full moon is in Gemini. So let's keep focusing on this. I know I've been talking about it a lot over the last 18 months, but maybe we can add some more detail and nuance to it and tie it into everything else I've been saying. So the transiting nodes of the moon basically mean two things from the evolutionary astrology perspective. It represents the collective karma. So the Sagittarian Gemini karma has been ripening for us, the collective, and we've been working through that. Working through and seeing a lot of the darker side motivations of Sagittarius, and then striving to really take the karmic medicine, if you will, which is the higher expression of Gemini, which of course is a focal point for this Gemini full moon. Meanwhile, Mars is really activating it because Mars is a bit of an agitator, or a triggering planet. I talked about this in a video recently. It is the king of triggering planets. And it's in a sign it likes, Sagittarius. Mars itself just represents a very active, dynamic, fiery energy. Here it is in Sagittarius, a fire sign, triggering the Sagittarian complex. Now, so it represents the collective karma. It also says a lot about the babies that have been born for the last 18 months and their karma. That's a big subject I don't want to get sucked into. So in terms of the collective karma, been talking about it a lot, dark side Sag, the world has been drunk on religion, meaning belief system. Has nothing necessarily to do with what we believe in God, which is the classical interpretation of religion. So it's linked to blind belief, basically, and the preacher archetype. Trying to convert everybody based on our own blind belief. And Sagittarius can and has a tendency to, on the dark side, connect the dots because Sagittarius are excellent at pattern recognition. So here's a dot, here's a dot, here's a dot. Let's connect them all, and boom, we have a cosmology, Hence the blind belief. We also see a lot of conspiracy theories popping up during, we have seen them over the last 18 months. And I have in my own chart, I have Mercury out of bounds for anybody who knows what that means. And I tend to believe that a lot of those conspiracy theories are true, or at least have a lot of truth in them. So I'm not trying to make those a super bad thing. But also there's just some really crazy ones out there that have really come to the forefront too. But it's just another way to convey this idea that there's been blind belief, drunk on religion. Okay. Now, with the agitator activating that, okay, the Mars in Sagittarius has this quality of self-righteousness in those beliefs, okay, hitting a fever pitch now during this full moon cycle. bringing a lot of our wounds to the surface. And another thing we got to remember is over the last 18 months, what else have we been experiencing? The Saturn-Pluto conjunction, the Saturn-Uranus square, these pressure cooker energies. The world's under tremendous pressure and hardship. And what happens to the frequency of a lot of our consciousnesses, the collective and individual, is there's, on average, over the last 2 years, a lot more fear, a lot more grief, despair, worry, concern, guilt, shame, anger, all these things, which are all part of the human experience, but they're stress-based, they're fear-based, they're low consciousness, if you will. The wonderful work of David R. Hawkins, he wrote many books, but his first one was Power versus Force, where he laid out this idea of the scale of consciousness. And I love this. It goes from 0 to 1,000. Everything above 200 is what he called power. Everything below 200 is what he called force. And everything below 200 was, let's say, stress-based or fear-based or negative or slows our evolution. Everything above is powerful. It comes more from the love spectrum of potentials. And in turn, if we operate from that higher frequency, if you will, then we accelerate our growth. Okay? And we have a better effect, a healing effect in our own life and in other people too. So, the last 2 years, the pressure cooker, lowering the collective consciousness, the average of it, because we're in more fear states. And what David said is when we operate at an average level of below 200, just as an individual, we're more susceptible to be manipulated by external forces. So here we have been more of this fear response, fight or flight, the kind of reptilian brain reaction. Meanwhile, we're more susceptible to external forces manipulated. We're more easily manipulated by beliefs. There's the Sagittarius South Node. Okay, that data coming in, we're in this fear response. We take on those beliefs. Okay, and we take this idea of survival plus beliefs. Sometimes it can translate as the only way we can all survive is if we do what I believe. We're seeing that in a lot of different places. And it's kind of hard to watch, but there it is. And then we ask the follow-up question, okay, the karmic wave is breaking in our life. It's ripening. That's what we're seeing. And we're seeing it in almost everywhere, every pocket of the globe to certain degrees. What do we do with it? What's the evolutionary intention? What's the karmic medicine that we need to take to heal from this dark side Sag? Enter Gemini. The higher octave expression of Gemini, that is. And since the North Node is in that sign, it's somewhat harder to reach because the scale is tipped much more towards Sag. Sag, here's a dot, here's a dot, here's a dot, now I have a cosmology. Gemini is much more about truth with a capital T, just the facts, ma'am. The investigative Geminian energy who can look at all the facts with a rational mind on the thought plane without getting this fervent belief, okay, we've kind of been indoctrinated into. And then the insecurity of that faith is we feel we need to convert everybody else, okay? So Gemini, just the facts, ma'am. I need to find the truth with a capital T. And instead of falling into the trap of Sag dogma, develop a more malleable perception of reality. Yes, Gemini is the sign of communication. Underlying communication is thought, but underlying thought is perception. And in light of that, Gemini at its core is the sign of perception. So a beautiful Geminian mantra is, whatever I believe reality to be, it's not quite that. I'm open-minded. I'm open to being stretched and explore in terms of, what my understanding of reality is. Meanwhile, Mars in Sag, next to the South Node, that righteous indignation, well, that's a more shadowy expression of it. What about the high end? How can this Mars support that Geminian evolution? Well, Mars is the war god. Wherever it is in the chart, whatever it's activating, is where we can sharpen our will and develop our courage. So do I have the bravery to investigate my thought patterns that might not be in alignment with the truth, with a capital T? Do I have the bravery to investigate the thought formations that are causing my own trauma, my trust wounds, to grow even stronger over time, to become ingrained behavior? Do I have the temerity to look within, to take accountability and responsibility for the reality that I'm creating for myself with my own mind and heart? And it's not easy work. That's why I'm calling this video mind training. Mars, the warrior energy, kind of has this adventurer, competitor energy to it. It's like warriors like to train. Here it is opposing this Gemini North Node, the full moon's in Gemini, of the mind training. So it's time to get like Rocky Balboa, preparing for Apollo Creed. Not so much the physical preparation, but rather the mental preparation. Okay? And look within, write it out. Do some journaling. Make your mind stronger. And the meditation I'm going to share at the end is a very powerful meditation to do just that, to break up some of the inner distortions, mental distortions and obstacles that keep us really from fully self-actualizing. But it's a process of work, And Pluto and Venus are in the sign of Capricorn, the sign of the hard worker. It wants great effort and consistency and force of will to keep your eye on the prize, to keep on going. Yes, this stuff called relationship is hard. It's hard work. Okay, but we can find deeper levels of commitment than we ever thought possible if we just are willing to look. Look at the root origin that's underlying my trigger point emotion and seek to work that out, especially with the connection with mind to heart through journaling, through emails, through letters, okay, through gifts, so that we can grow during this time, which has been very difficult. And of course, the nodes of the moon are switching into Taurus and Scorpio. I don't have time to get into that now. I know it's happening in a couple days, but I really want to reserve most of a video for that because it's a big subject. But as we attempt to just wring out the potential of the nodes finally leaving Gemini and Sag, meanwhile working with the Venus-Pluto and the Mars, these are really laying out the core evolutionary intentions, with the goal being to expand our consciousness. Now, before we dive into the meditation, I'd like to take some time to explain this. This is going to involve using a mantra, and I'll be chanting the mantra along with you. And for half the meditation, we'll be chanting the mantra, and for the other half, we'll be using a visualization technique. And just to tell you what the mantra is before we dive in, it's Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. And I'll go ahead and write it in the show notes below, so you can see it if you want, written there. But again, I will be chanting along with you. And this mantra is very powerful because it has a certain vibration within the body, creates a certain frequency that breaks up some of these obstacles within and makes your subconscious mind more malleable, so that then we can transition immediately into the visualization and not only develop more mental awareness about what some of these obstacles are, but also work to create new, more life-affirming, high consciousness sets of emotions and thoughts. And this is meant to be a companion daily practice, if you will, with what I was just describing with the astrology. So part of it is the mental awareness, whether it's writing or whatever, and actually writing out some of these obstacles, maybe some of these parts of your character that you view as weaknesses or areas you'd like to work on. It's not to feel badly about yourself or to blame yourself, but just with full impunity, look at that, just the facts, ma'am, like a Gemini, write those weaknesses out so you can identify them with your mind. So that's part of the external process outside of the meditation. And then combine this with the daily meditation we're about to do here. And this meditation is super powerful to do now because we got the full moon, we got the winter solstice, and continue it out beyond there. And what you're doing is you're creating a ripple wave of intention over the next season to break up some of these obstacles and mental formations. And I recommend you do this in the spirit of regularity for about 21 days in a row if you want to receive the full benefit. And as usual, I invite you to use headphones because I use a technology called binaural beats. Enjoy. Sit in a nice, comfortable position and take care that your spine is straight. And we'll begin by focusing on the breath. And just slowly breathe all the way down into your belly, and then feel your lungs expand. And slowly exhale. And make the in-breath and the out-breath either a 4 or a 6 count, whatever you're comfortable with. Deep, comfortable breathing. This really helps to relax us and connect deeply to our energy field. And just feel the tissues of your body expand as you inhale. Now add a visualization to it and visualize a white etheric vitality coming into your lungs with the oxygen and then spreading throughout your entire body. And with each exhale, the air goes out but the energy stays in. And continue this breath technique and visualization for a bit longer, and then I'll come back. Okay, now we're gonna start chanting together. And these sacred words bring about a very specific vibration within you. And I want you to do a nice big inhale and then we'll begin. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. 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 And inhale, nice deep breath. Hold the breath. Feel the vibration in your body. And then slowly exhale. And be very aware of the energetic shifts that you feel within your energy body. It's a very sacred mantra, powerful. And now bring your conscious awareness up into your head and visualize a white gold sun in your head, your entire headspace. A fiery white gold sun. This is the center of your mental body. And with each inhale, see the white gold sun grow brighter and brighter. And as you exhale, The air goes out, but the energy stays in. And maintain this visualization for a bit longer, and then I'll come back. I want you to bring to mind a person, or maybe a collection of people, towards whom you've had some bitterness, or maybe some people who have had some hostility towards you. And this visualization is a time for reconciliation, so it's important not to feel any anger. And with every out-breath, let go of any bad feelings that arise within you until you feel peace. It was not they who hurt you. No one can ever hurt you. No one at all. Your soul is incorruptible, ineffable life light. And words, however hateful they may be, can never hurt you. You can only hurt yourself by accepting their energy and reacting to the abuse. And see these people in front of you, taunting you, swearing at you, insulting you, or maybe raising a hand. And your reaction to this is to simply smile. Smile with peace and understanding in your heart and mind. In other circumstances, you might be quick to anger, but in this moment, you understand the fruitlessness of an ill temper. Peter once came to Jesus and said, "Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? 7 times? And Jesus said to him, not 7 times, but 70 times 7. Always, in other words. The feeling of being wounded or offended is self-punishing. The desire to be apologized to is an expression of a subtle egoism. And Jesus also taught that to hate those who love you is devilish. To love those who love you is human, and to love those who hate you is divine. And visualize their faces again. And now they are disarmed by your state of peace. They've even forgotten why they were angered in the first place. And see these people who, like you, are soul incarnate. See these people with love. And it's difficult now to understand how it's possible to see any other person as an enemy, as we all share a common effort to grow. They are your brothers and sisters, fellow self-aware souls. Whatever society we live in, no matter the trouble currently besetting the community, let us not have enemies. Let us not be unnerved by anything that anyone says or does to us. Let us sow peace and thereby setting examples. And before we end this meditation, plant a seed in your subconscious mind the seed that I will think before I act. And if you continue to plant and nurture that seed, it will grow and become ingrained. The next time you're in a situation where you feel anger arising, or you want to react harshly, just pause for a moment and recall this meditation, and it will help you to pivot. It will help you to consciously choose a different way. Now focus on your entire body and feel that you're in your entire body from head to toe. And visualize your body in a glowing whitish blue light. A star being shining brightly in all directions. And thank you for the light that you carry.